Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of the Too Deep Coverage Podcast. Today, we're back. Twizzler's back with another video. Like I say every video, disregard the pussy in the back. We're drowning in it. We have a few things to go over. The divisional games this weekend were great. The Kansas City game was a little underwhelming. I think the Detroit game felt like it was a little bit of a letdown, even though it was a great result. Fantastic for Washington. The Philly game, I think Saquon really proved himself. Really. I think he is definitely one or two in the league, running back wise. And then Baltimore losing tonight kind of put into question, okay, is Derrick Henry number one or is he number two next to Saquon? And then we have Buffalo coming out on top. They got it done. Now they just have to go into Arrowhead and see what they can do. See if they can make it happen. See what Josh Allen can do. See if he can keep putting his team on his back. Alright guys, so I just want to start going over the Kansas City game. Kansas City got 23 points, which, if you look, second lowest out of everybody. The Rams got 22, but they were playing in the snow. Okay, Kansas City was cold, but they had a clean field, so just Kansas City's looking very unbeatable, but I also think that they're looking kind of weak on offense. I think that they have very low scoring all year, probably the lowest scoring team outside of everybody else that's outside of the playoffs. They are definitely been scraping by in these games. I think they definitely did better against Houston, but I think getting field goals helped them out a lot too. I think that they got a bunch of field goals that game, so there was really it wasn't a dominant win. It was a get it done kind of game, which I think that Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes are getting really good at. They're getting good at those kind of games. So I'm not necessarily sure if Kansas City can come and win against Buffalo, especially with the way Buffalo was looking today. I mean, they're just strong. They're fast. They go hard. And Josh Allen is going to put the team on his back. There's not really a way that I think that they can get out of Arrowhead without the win. I think especially with how much they've been struggling to put points up on the board. I think Buffalo's just got it done no matter the environment, no matter the weather, no matter on the road, at home, against good teams, bad teams. They've done it all this year. And they beat the team that I had picked to win, which was Baltimore. And so we'll see what Kansas City can do against them. I think Kansas City has a good chance to win the AFC Championship, but I think now with the Eagles and the Commanders, we'll have to see who wins that game. But I really think the Eagles have a great chance of beating Kansas City this year. They're still my Super Bowl pick. They've made it through the playoffs swimmingly, as I thought they would, having to play the Rams instead of the Bucks was a little different, and now having to play the Commanders instead of the Lions is also a big difference. I think that splitting the games 1-1 this season, I thought the Eagles won both, but splitting the games 1-1 this season, I think the Commanders are going to have some confidence, especially after the run they're going on with Jane Daniels. But I think that there's just no way that this core of the Eagles, plus everybody they've brought in, Nick Fangio, are going to really let this newer team with, I don't want to say less talent because they have a lot of good players, but I just want to say that it's maybe a less cohesive unit. Maybe they just have less experience, less playoff experience. I think everybody that's still left in that organization has very little playoff experience. So, I just think going to the NFC Championship game this first year, it's like catching lightning in a bottle. It's just seemingly impossible, but now that you have it, you don't want to drop it. It's like John Middlecoff used the analogy today. You go to the blackjack table with $1,000. Now you got $50,000. You can't start playing $10,000 hands. You can't start playing. You want to go home with that. You're up. You want to win. So I think that we'll see how that game goes. We'll see if it's high scoring like their game was. Washington 45 to Detroit's 31. And honestly, I got to say that Detroit, I think they let down a lot of people. I think that everybody was really looking forward to having them win this game, go to the Super Bowl, and have a chance against Kansas City. I think everybody wanted the Lions to be the dynasty busters, the dynasty breakers. I think they wanted them to do that for San Francisco as well, because San Francisco's been in the playoffs and the Super Bowl so many times over the last few years. But I think that the teams that are getting through this year are the most well-rounded. And I think that Detroit's vulnerabilities really showed against Washington. Their defense is just splintered completely. And it's like, breaking a drumstick and still trying to use it. I mean, you're going to, maybe you'll hit the edge of the drum, but you're not going to be able to reach everything. You're not going to be able to get everything. And when that Lions player went down, his arm was just shattered. Like, you could see the rest of his body was moving, but just his arm was planted on the ground, just broken. It was pretty gnarly. And that was like, okay, I just don't know what else to do. You know, I think if I was Dan Campbell and all of them on that team, I'd really be like, okay, guys, I mean, we're basically playing with a team of backups. Maybe, you know, rotational guys, you know, maybe they'll start if somebody's hurt. But the Lions had a great season. I think they have a chance to bring it back. They have a lot of guys on contract. They got a lot of guys they want this year back. You know, Aiden Hutchinson, I'm sure, feels like he had a part in their team not making it all the way. Not necessarily that he had anything to do with them losing this game or any of the other games or the wins they had, but I think that he feels like he would have been able to do more if he was there. And I think that next year they're going to really come with a vengeance. But Washington this year, they're coming with that vengeance now. It seems like they put together a great crew of coaching players. They got people that are from all over the NFL to come to this team, kind of a ragtag team. And Jane Daniels is really leading them. Really leading them. I mean, they're really, really surprising everybody in the playoffs this year. I think that Washington has probably the best potential to be an upset against Philadelphia, only because Washington's in their division. You know, they watch tape on them all year. They watch how they play against the Cowboys. They watch how they play against the Giants. They really watch a lot of Eagles film, especially going up into this next week. I think they'll really be able to say, like, okay, we know what we're going up against. We know what to do. We know how to beat this offense. We know how to beat this defense. We know how to, you know, have a good special teams. I think everything is going to be really good for them. With Jane Daniels connecting with all these guys and making these crazy throws, and the receivers really, really going out and trying to win these games. You have Austin Eckler, who's just, I thought he was a good running back, kind of got moved over to this team, maybe pushed to the side. I think he's showing like, okay, yeah, I have value here. I think that they have, you know, they have a really good team. I think they're probably just as strong on offense as Detroit was on defense. You know, they probably have a lot of rotational guys, maybe some second-string guys, and they have a great rookie quarterback who's trying to lead them down to win this, you know, with a good coach, Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is the Lions coach. Dan Quinn for the Commanders. I think that he's really pushing these guys to be better than they are. Making an NFC Championship game in your first year as a quarterback is just unreal in the NFL, regardless if you played a lot in college or not. So, you know, I'm really want to see what this divisional conference championship game is going to look like. I think it's probably going to be one of the most technical games, especially being in Philadelphia. Hopefully it's a snow game again. That would be fantastic. It would, you know, but that's kind of greedy. But speaking of Philadelphia, Saquon Barkley ran all over them today. 205 yards on the ground, ran all over the Rams. I think the Rams had the best shot in the first half of the game when there was no snow, when there was no element other than the cold. You could see Stafford before it started snowing, licking his fingertips, trying to warm them up, maybe get some grip. Everybody's hands are so cold, so frozen. When my hands get cold in my life, they hurt so bad. It's like I can't function. I can't take my seatbelt off. I can't put my seatbelt on. I can't grab things. I can't do anything. I can't feel stuff on my hands. The texture is horrible. I couldn't imagine these guys trying to throw and catch footballs in the cold, wet snow. I mean, just, it's unreal, these guys, what they're trying to do out there. And they did a good job, a lot of these guys. And I think that Philadelphia today showed that they're a better team in the snow. I think the Rams, with everything going on, especially with LA, plus being a West Coast team that plays inside, I think they're going to have a hard time going on the road in December, especially if you go play outside. You know, maybe if they played against the Lions, they would have had a better chance. Maybe if they played against somebody other than Philly, things would have been a little different. Saquon Barkley ran all over him. Jalen Hurts did better passing. He got the ball to a lot more people, especially in the snow. I thought it was great that he didn't just stop throwing the ball completely, because he does that in normal games. But he's definitely good with his legs. I really have that opinion that he's better with his legs and his arm. And I think that if it comes to getting 4 or 6 yards, I'd rather have him run than throw the ball. It's like with Mike Vick, you know, like you almost want him to start scrambling. or with Lamar. You almost want him to start scrambling because he's so dangerous outside of the pocket, whether it's his legs or his arm. I think Jalen has a bit of that, but I think he's a lot bigger than both of those guys. Not as big as Josh Allen. That's where he really shines. When he goes on the run, there's just nobody stopping him. But I think Jalen Hurts is like kind of the NFC version of that. You know, the Bills tonight were using the tush push to get touchdowns with Josh Allen. I think they realize they're probably the only other team, along with the Eagles, that have big enough bodies, a strong enough, big enough physical specimen of enough of a quarterback to go and try and do those type of plays. And Jalen Hurts tonight with his legs was great. You know, I think that when you think about quarterbacks going on big runs and doing a lot of crazy things, it's awesome. And you think like, man, he's so good, like Lamar. He can run 30 yards. He can run 30 yards in the backfield and throw stuff around, and he's still getting touchdowns. But Jalen Hurts just picking up 8 yards, 6 yards, 12 yards, 10 yards, getting first downs. That's like the true, like, Swiss Army knife quarterback. Like, you really just need to get 7 or 8 first downs every drive. If you start on the 25, you need to get 7, you're at the 5-yard line, and you got goal to go. You got 4 plays to get a touchdown. So really, if you can get first downs, you're going to win this game. And I think that Saquon, of course, just running through and over everybody helped them get a lot of those first downs. That touchdown he had, the 82-yarder, where he just rears up, he says, I got this. And he gets the ball and he just runs. And he just runs for the house. I think just shows his ability as a player. He literally looked at the defense and said, I got this. This is all me. So, you know, it was a great game from the Eagles. Hearing them sing in the stadium after that touchdown, the kumbaya atmosphere, the city of brotherly love. You know, I felt it through my TV set all the way across the country. It was fantastic. It felt like there was hope. You know, I think this team has been good for so long. After the last Super Bowl with Nick Foles, I felt like they caught lightning out of a bottle that year, having their starter go down and still winning against Tom Brady. I think this city and the team are really, really happy with Saquon coming to their team and revitalizing it. Because even getting to the playoffs last year and losing to Tampa, going to the Super Bowl and losing against Kansas City, you know, missing the playoffs, you know, over the last 4 or 5 years, I think that this is the best chance Philadelphia's had, especially now with Washington coming in versus the Lions or even Tampa Bay or anybody else. I think they now have the best chance they've had in years to get to the Super Bowl since they've got to the last one. And I think, you know, whoever gets there, I think they're going to be very evenly matched against them. I think the Bills' offense mirrors a lot of the Philly offense. I think there's, you know, other than maybe like the A.J. Brown having that big body out there, I think he might have it over Amari Cooper. But if they play the Kansas City Chiefs, I think the Eagles are going to have a pretty good chance to walk away with the Lombardi this year with the way they were looking today. I mean, 205 yards in the snow in a playoff game. That is taking it to another level. You know what I mean? And that's also what Josh Allen did today. He took it to another level for his team. Buffalo winning 27-25. You know, Baltimore turning the ball over so many times this game obviously is the thing that lost them the game. You know, like, they had a lot of good things going. Even if they had to punt, even if they had to kick field goals, even if they had to do this, do that. They were moving down the field until Lamar drops the ball and it gets scooped up down to the 20. Until Andrews catches a pass and tries to be fancy instead of just going down in the snow or trying to be fancy. You know, just every game in the snow, I was thinking, why are we trying to be fancy in the snow? Why are we trying to cough up the ball when it's wet and slippery and freezing and I can't even grip? I can't even hold my hands closed. And I'm doing crazy things trying to make plays happen. Making the plays, catching the ball, and getting down. That's the play in the snow. You know, all these turnovers let Buffalo come away with the win today. I think that Buffalo showed some holes. Like, okay, can they move the ball on the ground? Yeah. They can move the ball on the ground. But can they move the ball in the air? Seems like a little bit more of a struggle. I especially think going against Kansas City, it might be tough. It might be tough with Chris Jones, trying to get through him and their front line. Karloff just made that great play against C.J. Stroud when they kind of had that view from behind, and they film it different. They have different shots for different things, but that dude was sprinting after C.J. Stroud so fast. It was like the fastest white dude I've ever seen move, and he was huge. It was like Juggernaut out of X-Men. This dude was running like crazy quick. I think Josh Allen has a little bit better of a chance running away from that guy than C.J. Stroud. But, come on now. The Chiefs are where they are for a reason. I went and I watched their America's Team documentary from their Super Bowl season last year. And it was like they didn't even present a hurdle. They presented the hurdle of okay, we lost the Christmas game against the Raiders. We turned the ball over a lot. But it was like the team is so expected to do well. And they're so good coached. And they're so confident in themselves that there was really never a question that they were going to lose. So if Buffalo can make them question well, guys, are we going to lose to them again? They're the only team we lost to this year. Josh Allen used his legs on fourth and whatever it was, and he put the game away. Is that going to happen again? So if you can make Kansas City doubt for even just a second, are they going to win? Are they going to do it again? Or if you put that in their head of, I have to go and win this game, rather than go through the motions and see where we're at the end, like they have all year. All year they've just gone through the motions of the game and won by 3, won by 8, won by 7, won by 4, So I just don't think they need to overextend themselves this game. I think Buffalo's going to come in trying to prove something. And I think Buffalo already proved it today against Baltimore. I know everybody's going to rip Lamar Jackson, but I think what today proved about Lamar Jackson is that you can be great. You can be fantastic. You can be MVP candidate. You can be league-leading passer, league-leading rusher, league-leading everything. Have a number 1 defense after the last 13 weeks of the year. But if you don't hold on to the ball when it matters, then you're going to lose the game. It's like Tony Romo said right after that second turnover very early on in the game. Buffalo hasn't lost a turnover battle all season long. This is now their 19th game. They haven't lost a turnover battle at all. Once. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if they have more possessions than everybody else does, there's no way you lose, even if you're a worse team. Let's say you go to play against, the Browns, and you get 7 possessions and they get 14 possessions. Even if they only score 50%, you have to score 100% of the time. That's like with Detroit. So what everybody was saying about Detroit. That's why going against San Francisco and the Vikings, it was so important that their offense did well, because their defense is going to let the other team's offense do whatever they want to. So if the defense is going to give them as many possessions as they want, the offense has to come and match all of those possessions. All of them. All of them. Well, Baltimore losing by only 2 points. See if the camera will focus. It's not really working too well today, folks. If the Ravens hold on to the ball, even if they score 2 field goals on those possessions where they lost it, they win the game by 4 points. It's 31-27. Buffalo has to go try and get a touchdown at the end of the game to win. It's just that simple. I think that the league now, especially when you get this deep in the playoffs, is all about grit. I don't think you get to be one of the last 8 teams being a bad team or a team that just gets by. Like Washington was not a bad team. They might have got by. Houston might have got by. But I think Washington beating Detroit by more than 3 points, by more than 1 score, kind of showed hey, We're doing more than just getting by, folks. We're winning these games late because we need to learn their defense, and then in the second half, we cut through it. That's the kind of games they're playing. And going on to the conference championship games now, guys. My predictions were way off for these playoffs. I hope the Eagles get there. I hope the Eagles win, especially against KC. If the Bills win, historic. And great power to them. Josh Allen MVP, Josh Allen Super Bowl MVP, Josh Allen defensive Super Bowl MVP. Like, literally Josh Allen did it all this year for them. But I want the Eagles to win. I think they're probably... I think Saquon coming to the team is what's going to take them over the edge. I think them beating the Rams today, basically on his back, showed everybody like Saquon was the right move. They needed a running back to make it happen. A top-tier, elite running back. Nothing against DeAndre Swift. He's my running back now for the Bears. But speaking of the Bears, Marcus Freeman, they were talking about wanting to interview him after the national championship game, which is tomorrow, the 20th of January. Monday night, Notre Dame versus Ohio State. I think if Notre Dame goes out here and plays a hard game, I think they have a chance to win. And, I haven't really talked about college football much. I don't really watch college football much, I'm not going to lie. But when I've seen Notre Dame play in these playoffs, when they went and played against Georgia, and they just came out and beat Penn State, it was like, maybe Notre Dame is good. Maybe it's not because they're independent and they can make their schedule. Maybe they're just good. Maybe it's not because, these teams are bad or they got a first round gimme. Maybe Notre Dame's just good. And like I said, going back to my original point, what I see when I watch Notre Dame is a team that is pushing to win every second they're on the field. They're not trying to let him run by because there's 8 minutes left in the first quarter and I want to have my energy for the fourth quarter. No. These guys are 110% every play, never stopping, never backing down. The effort, the strength. I mean, I know Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country this year. They should have probably been number one. I think the way that they rank teams is so weird based off of wins and losses. Because when you get past the college system, wins and losses don't really matter. As long as you get to the playoffs, right? Well, now having wins and losses gets you to the playoff in college football. And I think Notre Dame probably has a worse loss than Ohio State does, losing to Northern Illinois in the second game of the season, and Ohio State losing to Michigan. I think them losing to their bitter rival who they haven't beat in years now. I mean, I remember I was just living in Ohio and people were always talking about, Ohio State owns Michigan, they own Michigan State, they own Penn State. Ohio State's the Big Ten, they run the Big Ten, we are the Big Ten. Big noon at Ohio State, we are Ohio State. Okay? The Big O. OHIO. But they lost to Michigan bad. It wasn't like Michigan went out and outdueled them and won 42-39. No, it was a really, really, really bad game. It was like Ohio State had 4 quarters to try their hardest to not do anything, and they did it. So I don't know if that same Ohio State team still exists. I don't know if there's a situation where that team can score as few points as they did, but I think Notre Dame going against the Ohio State that beat Oregon, that's a different beast. That's a different beast. If Notre Dame does win, I really don't see him going anywhere. I don't even see him interviewing with anybody, even if it's with, okay, we're going to have you be the assistant coach assistant head coach Andy Reid in Kansas City. You're going to inherit Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and his predecessor, and you're the new coach. I don't think he's taking it, because I think Notre Dame is just as prestigious as any head coaching job in the NFL. I think at Notre Dame might be more prestigious because most of the players in the NFL come from Notre Dame. I mean, some of the best ones out there come from Notre Dame. So, I don't see Freeman going anywhere, especially after getting to the national championship game very early on in his coaching career at Notre Dame. I don't think there's an amount of money that's going to take him away from being Marcus Freeman. Like that's who he is now. He is directly associated with Notre Dame and Notre Dame's success. So I think even if they lose to Ohio State, he's not going to leave. I think he wants to come back and, okay, let's run it back. Let's prove ourselves now. Let's get back. Let's get a better seed this year. Let's get a first round bye. Let's win out. Let's go undefeated. Let's see what we can do as Notre Dame. And I think Ohio State has a lot to prove here. I think Ohio State has to prove to a lot of people that, the Big Ten is as good as the SEC. The Big Ten has as many good teams as the SEC does. The talent might not be as big. They might not be as fast. But I think that the Big Ten has a lot of good players. I think especially playing up north, the cold weather teams have a lot to prove. In Indiana, Ohio, border rivalry kind of thing, I think this is going to be a great game. I expect Ohio State to win. They're probably like my third favorite college football team. 3 of 3. I'm not picking any more than 3. I feel like that is a disaster. But when you have 130 to choose from, I'm going to have more than one. I pick Ohio State to win. I'm not going to put money on it. I don't watch these, but if you think it's going to be a blowout, like 41-21 or something, I don't see that happening. I don't think Notre Dame's going to give up that easy. I just don't see it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed my little playoff recap, my little take from each playoff game and little preview. Excited to see who the Bears pick up as their coach, regardless if it's Marcus Freeman or Freddie Freeman or Freddie Krueger. Really, I'm just excited to see who's going to be leading the helm next year. And that's it for me, guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Share it to your friends. Let them know, like, hey, I agree with this, and if you don't, you're stupid. Or say that this guy is so stupid, let's laugh at him together. Whatever you got to do, make sure you share it. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.